So recently, Matt Ryan was on CBS, and he had a message for the Jets receivers after a loss. So let's give this a listen, and then I'm going to give my thoughts.
You've been to Pro Bowls. You've been Player of the Year, just like Aaron Rodgers. What is your message to the New York Jets receiving crew as they go in there on Monday tomorrow?
Listen, you need to get on my page. Not your page, you need to get on my page, all right? We saw the clip of Aaron Rodgers. You were sitting right next to me, the body language. There was a chance late in that game where he's expecting Garrett Wilson to bend up the seam, too high look, to kind of bend that thing in towards the hash. He's expecting him to be there. His frustration after, the hands go to the helmet. You can see clear as day where the camera was, right on his eyes. They're not on the same page, right? I expect you to be at a certain spot at a certain time. Forget all the rest. That's what I need.
All right, so there were a lot of problems in the Jets' loss to the Denver Broncos, but I think Matt Ryan brings up a very, very good point, especially when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. One of the reasons I think Rodgers, had so much success in Green Bay was the chemistry he built up over time with his receivers, the chemistry he had with Davante Adams. And during his time in Green Bay, he was known to, take some time to get used to younger talent, and if guys were dropping passes and not really on the same page as Rodgers, he would start to look away from them and he would only go to the guys that he trusted. And I think that's one of the issues here in New York is that him and Garrett Wilson are not quite on the same page all the time. Now, Garrett Wilson, I still think, is the most talented receiver on the Jets roster. But when you look at the last game and you look at targets, it's sort of like he's just, one of the guys, not really the top tier guy, just based on targets. Lazard tied Garrett Wilson with targets with 8 versus the Broncos, as well as tight end Tyler Conklin. And so if you're Garrett Wilson and you want to, get on Aaron Rodgers' good side and you want to be able to, have that same chemistry that he had with guys like Davante and other players like that, it's obviously going to come with time, because even though Rodgers has been in New York for, past year and a half or so, this is still only 4 games in and Rodgers is still building chemistry with these receivers. And you saw in that game, there's some plays with Lazard, sort of like the back shoulder type throws. There's one in particular I'm thinking of right now where you can just see that Rodgers and Lazard are on the same page. Lazard is nowhere near the talent of Garrett Wilson, but he does have the full trust, I would say, of Aaron Rodgers, where I think Garrett Wilson is still trying to get acclimated to what it's like to play with Rodgers, sort of where he wants him to be, things like that. And I do think there are a lot of other issues that are even more pressing here for this New York Jets offense right now. Specifically the Broncos game. This offensive line was not playing well whatsoever. In the pass blocking, they allowed 5 sacks. They'd only allowed 5 sacks in the previous 3 games. You would tell that Rodgers was back there getting pressured a lot in that game versus the Broncos. Because of that, it seemed to me like he was checking things down quicker, wasn't really necessarily looking deep as often. There's one play where Garrett Wilson has this nice deep route. He gets open, but by the time Garrett Wilson is open, Rodgers has already thrown it short 5 or so yards, and you can see Garrett Wilson, he gets open, he throws up his hand, sort of trying to signal to Rodgers, but the ball had already gone, short from Rodgers. And so I think that their offensive line right now is a problem, especially in the running game. Right now, PFF has the Jets as the 24th ranked run blocking offense. They're 22nd in pass blocking grade per PFF. And if you look at the Jets in their rushing attack currently, they are 30th in rush yards per play. So that's not good. One problem the Jets offense is having trouble. It's because the rushing attack is really bad. And when you're, not able to run the ball, you're averaging, Breece Hall at 0.4 yards per carry last game. That's just not going to cut it. It's not helping Aaron Rodgers. It's not helping this Jets offense. And so you do have to give a ton of credit to the Broncos. They have one of the better defenses in the NFL. They were getting pressure on Rodgers. They were sacking Rodgers. They were, really, really good against the run. The Jets offensive line was sort of no match for them. And so I still think it is early for the Jets season. They're 2-2. They have the 5th best scoring defense in the NFL. I do think this offense can continue to get acclimated with each other. Rodgers can continue to build that chemistry with Garrett Wilson. There is the possibility of Davante Adams being traded to New York. I think if you're the Jets, that's a no-brainer to trade for Davante Adams. You don't know how long you're going to have Rodgers for. Maybe a year, maybe 2-3 years. And to bring in a guy who Rodgers trusts, I think is of the utmost importance. And if Davante came in, I think we would see a majority of the targets funnel towards Davante. I do think it would also open things up for, Garrett Wilson as well in the passing game. But at the end of the day, if Rodgers is getting pressured like he was, if he's getting sacked as much as he was last game, it almost doesn't matter who your receivers are, because if you can't allow those routes, those deep routes to develop, you're not going to be able to get some of those, big splash plays. If you want more NFL content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.